This is part 2 of the Chapter 1 lecture notes. There we go. We already discussed the some of this slide, but I didn't really get to finish movement. So movement doesn't just refer to when we move our body. Skeletal muscles are responsible for movement when we move our body parts. But we also have two other muscle types, which is cardiac muscle, which is responsible for moving blood through our blood vessels, and smooth muscle, which is responsible for moving waste through our digestive tract and urine through our urinary tract. So it's not just movement of our body, but it's movement, through our body as well. And the word contractility refers to movement at the cellular level. So, for example, when we say that a muscle cell or a muscle contracts or a muscle cell contracts, that's contractility. That's the ability to contract. And then we have, on slide 21, we have responsiveness, which is the ability to sense and respond to stimuli. This is also called excitability sometimes. A good example of responsiveness is the withdrawal reflex, which prevents us from getting injured, from getting hurt. If we touch something hot, we withdraw our hand, we move our hand away. If we step on something sharp that's painful, we pull our foot back away from it. Another example of responsiveness is how we control our breathing rate. So when we're very relaxed, we tend, we breathe slowly when we aren't moving. And then when we exercise, we breathe faster. So our breathing rate speeds up in response to different activities and different changes that happen. And it's not just whether we are being active or whether we're sitting still. It's also things like whether or not, as far as our emotions, whether or not we're scared or, we're feeling relaxed and fine and calm, we're going to be breathing at a slower rate. But if we are scared or nervous, then our breathing is going to speed up. Digestion is breaking down the food that we eat into very small molecules that can be absorbed into our bloodstream. Metabolism refers to all the chemical reactions that occur in our cells. And that is going to consist of breakdown reactions called catabolism and build up or synthesis reactions, which are called anabolism. So combination of the breakdown and building up reactions in our body would together would be our metabolism. And excretion is removal of waste, whether they are solid waste or liquid waste, or removal of waste is just called excretion. So even carbon dioxide that we breathe out is considered part of excretion, and sweat and urine, feces, all of that is excretion, removing waste from our cells, from our body. Reproduction refers to not just making babies or offspring, but also reproduction at the cellular level. So when our cells divide through mitosis, that's going to occur when we grow, or when our tissues need to repair themselves. That's also considered reproduction. And growth is increase in size of a body part or of the entire person. Excuse me. Here it says humans are multicellular, means we're composed of many, many, many cells. But to function, our individual cells must be kept alive. The organ systems are designed to service all of those cells, all of those trillions of cells, and then all cells depend on organ systems to meet their survival needs. There are a total of 11 organ systems. You're going to need to learn them, their names, and then just their basic functions for now, and basic components. I'm going to skip that. Okay, so the first organ system is the integumentary system. Make sure that you know that consists of the skin, the hair, the nails, as well as sweat and oil glands and sensory receptors. Know that the functions of the integumentary system are to protect, also to synthesize vitamin D. And then we have the skeletal system, which are the bones and the joints. And the function is to provide a framework so that the muscles the muscles and the bones together can cause us to move our body. The skeletal system is also responsible for forming blood cells, and bones also store minerals like calcium and fat. So there's more than just the function of movement. The skeletal muscles form the muscular system. When we talk about smooth muscle and cardiac muscle, we do that within the body systems where that tissue is found. But when we say the muscular system, we're referring to skeletal muscles. And the brain, the spinal cord, and the nerves form the nervous system. And this system controls the rest of the body systems using fast-acting electrical impulses. And then we have the endocrine system, which is another control system, but it responds, it causes changes by releasing hormones into the bloodstream. So this is going to, and I'm going to go over some of these components because you may not be as familiar with the endocrine system. The pineal gland, for example, is in the brain and it produces melatonin. The pituitary gland produces many hormones that regulate other organs and other glands. The thyroid gland produces thyroid hormones and regulates our metabolism. Adrenal glands sit on top of the kidneys. See them here and here? The adrenal glands produce hormones like epinephrine. We used to call that adrenaline. And people still do, but in medicine we call it epinephrine. You probably heard of an EpiPen for people who have allergies and go into shock. So the EpiPen will help relieve that. The adrenal glands produce epinephrine. They produce some of our stress hormones like cortisol. And then we have the pancreas, of course. And the pancreas produces insulin and glucagon to help regulate our blood glucose levels. Now, when the pancreas functions to produce digestive enzymes, that is part of the digestive system. But its function in the endocrine system is to produce insulin and glucagon. And then we have the ovaries and the testes, which overlap with the reproductive system, but they produce hormones, so they're also part of the endocrine system. And then we have the cardiovascular system, which functions in pumping blood and transporting that blood throughout the body, and it consists of the heart and the blood vessels. The lymphatic system, which is oftentimes we overlap with the immune system. It consists of red bone marrow, the thymus, and it also consists of lymphatic vessels, lymph nodes, the spleen. So those are the main components of the lymphatic system, and also the white blood cells called lymphocytes are housed in the lymphatic system. Then we have the respiratory system, which starts with our nasal cavity and leads to our lungs, and it's going to provide our blood with oxygen and remove carbon dioxide. The digestive system is the digestive tract, which begins at the mouth and ends at the anus. It includes the esophagus, the stomach, the intestines, and it also includes some accessory organs like the liver and the gallbladder. But it's going to function in breaking down our food and causing our food to be absorbed into our bloodstream, as well as eliminating the food that we cannot digest as feces. The urinary system begins with the kidneys and produces urine, which enter the ureters, and the urine is stored in the urinary bladder and leaves the body through the urethra. So it's going to eliminate waste from our body in the form of urine, and it's going to regulate our water levels, our electrolyte levels, and the acid-base balance of the blood. So it does a lot more than just produce urine. The male reproductive system consists of the penis, the scrotum, the testes, and other structures, but the function is to produce offspring and male sex hormones like testosterone. The female reproduction system will include the mammary glands, the ovaries, the uterus, fallopian tubes or uterine tubes, the vagina. These are all for producing offspring and also producing the female sex hormones. Let me go back to this. Okay. It's like there's a mistake here. Ovaries produce, I guess they're, hold on. The same information is under female reproductive system and male reproductive system, and it was confusing me, but that's okay. There's nothing wrong. It's just both information is under both figures. So now we have the basic needs and survival needs that we're talking about. And so in survival needs, humans need several factors to survive. Too much or too little can be harmful. We definitely need nutrients for survival, nutrients like carbohydrates and proteins. We need oxygen and water. We need to have a normal body temperature, not too hot or too cold, appropriate atmospheric pressure. If the pressure of the atmosphere is too great or too low, that could cause us not to be able to survive. So these are survival needs. Excuse me, I had an interruption. So nutrients are going to include, I said this already, but they're going to include carbohydrates, proteins, fats, and vitamins and minerals. And then oxygen is necessary for survival. Our body can only survive a few minutes without oxygen. I'm trying to make this. Okay, and then we must have water for survival. Most of the chemicals reactions in our body have to occur in water, so we've got to have water. And then normal body temperature is 37 degrees Celsius. You may know it better as 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. I had to think about that one, but you can have a temperature above or below that value, but it's within a very narrow range. So if it's too high, we're running a fever, and we can't survive for very long when it's too high or too low, when the body temperature is too high or too low. And then atmospheric pressure is the pressure of this air pressure. So there's an air pressure at sea level, and then if you were to hike Mount Everest, for example, the atmospheric pressure would be much lower, and your body would not be able to take in to absorb as much oxygen. Your breathing wouldn't be adequate. You would begin to have some problems thinking and concentrating, and your organs would shut down. If you just can't hike Mount Everest and stay up there for an extended period of time. People aren't made to survive that low pressure, So again, if the pressure is too high, and I guess that would be the only situation I can think there would be like if you were, if you were in the, if you went into a submarine or something, and the atmospheric pressure is not really atmospheric pressure, it's the water pressure of the ocean. But atmospheric pressure being too high can also be a bad